I'm so sad. I'm so distraught emotionally. I hate coming on here and arguing with all of you guys. I mean, you're great. I love you a lot. If only I could argue with another person, maybe a woman, because, you know, as you guys know, I don't get along well with women, and I just wish I had a woman here to take all my anger out on.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, hey, a woman to argue with. Awesome. Yeah. It's time to argue. It's time to take your hot takes, your unpopular opinions, and your tough questions and respond to the best ones with E-Potty.
Let's argue. Let's get mad. Are you mad?
Not yet, but, you know, give me a few seconds. People like artists way more than they actually care for the music itself.
I have to also agree with them. I think that people kind of get tunnel vision when it comes to their favorite artists. I think we're seeing it a lot with Taylor Swift, them completely just defending an album as soon as it comes out. I've seen it recently with Ariana Grande, with her ticket sales and everyone getting really mad saying, you can't say anything bad about her, you can't say anything bad about her. I think being a real fan is being able to criticize your favorite artist, being able to say, well, maybe they made choices that are bad, or maybe they made a couple bad albums. But people are really fixated on this idea that you have to completely idolize an artist beyond just its music.
I agree. I think there are a lot of people out there operating this way today, and I think a lot of it has to come down to, you know, I remember existing in an era where, sure, you know, you had like access to radio and magazines and, you know, a few other like maybe traditional media outlets that allowed you, if you were curious enough as a fan, to sort of like, you know, get some different types of access to your favorite artists out there and, you know, see what they're up to and read what's going on in their heads, you know, according to what they're doing with their latest album cycle, or even like, you know, seeing random paparazzi pictures of them and some stuff like that. You know, 9 times out of 10, if you were as a fan seeking out a connection to that artist and their music, you had to do it through their recordings, you know, because like you couldn't always like flip on the TV and see your favorite artist there. You know, you can always look up a video on the internet or do some like deep dive of every random live performance, or, you know, do searching on some kind of random forum about what everybody's theorizing, like, oh, what does this song mean? What does this song mean? What does this song think? 9 times out of 10, again, if you were like seeking a connection with that artist, you were doing it through their music. And now I think there's like so many more opportunities to kind of focus less on the music and get obsessed instead in a bunch of other stuff that's like not totally unrelated from it, but is more just sort of like context around the music, or you know, just not exactly the music itself. So it becomes easy to sort of like get a parasocial thing going, you know?
Yeah.
That has more to do with like this person's persona and what you imagine them to be thinking and feeling like, and, you know, who they are in your head as far as the image that you're concocting, which can be kind of weird and unhealthy, and again, sort of feels like a shift away from the music itself.
Yeah, people are really tying an artist's identity into their own identity and their own morals, and are projecting what they want themselves to be, moral and just, onto their favorite artists, kind of like blinding their perception on them.
Soon all coworker music will be AI music.
Okay, as someone who actually has a coworker playlist, it's not too far off from AI music, okay? There's a lot of Imagine Dragons on there, some new Maroon 5s. I kind of think that this person's onto something.
I think if AI is going to thrive in the music industry, it is going to be with like a certain audience of listeners. People are just like very casual, and the people who, at least in my experience, I see enjoying it the most often are those who are like not really demanding a whole lot from what it is they're listening to. They're just kind of having it on in the background and not really thinking about it all that much. And I think AI truly is like the best at just filling that empty noise void, and that's like really all that it's good at.
Palatable, something that doesn't really challenge how people think so that they can get on with their day jobs.
But I mean, like, the downside to that is that, you know, at one time there were actual artists making that sort of thing and making a living, you know, making music that people could just like enjoy casually without having to think about it too much. And there's nothing inherently wrong with, you know, doing that for a song or two or an entire album or whatever. I mean, that's like sort of the service the radio used to provide at one point. But now, like, we're just going to let robots take it over? That's kind of terrible.
I kind of think what's palatable and basic and simple to someone isn't to someone else. So to take that away from actual artists is still incredibly unfair.
Everyone should collaborate with Jack Antonoff exactly one time. The first album he produced for Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, St. Vincent, and Lorde were their best records of their careers. But the more you work with him, it's just diminishing returns. He actually worked a little bit with Doja Cat, too, on her new record, and I actually think that's my favorite Doja Cat album so far. I mean, what do you think of this theory? Should everyone just do Jack one and done? That's it?
I think it's become clear that it's a pop rite of passage, that if you're going to make pop music, that you have to work with Jack at least once.
Right.
But Tales Old as Time, don't repeat it. Don't go more than once, otherwise you're going to be coming up with some bad albums like we're seeing with Taylor Swift. Even Lorde is making some unforgettable music, I think. So it should be a one and done and move on.
I think Jack has definitely shown himself to be like a very versatile producer because, I mean, you know, looking at some of those albums, like his record with Lorde, you know, St. Vincent's Daddy's Home, his best stuff with Taylor, like those are all very different albums. But I don't know if he's like the best at getting versatility out of the artists that he works with. You know, I think he does, like, as this person was observing, like one great moment, and then beyond that, it's sort of like, what do we do?
Right.
You know, it just kind of ends up becoming like a little bit of a mess or like a less interesting version of the thing they've already done before. I mean, we've already heard in the past him kind of rehash ideas he's done with other artists, like, you know, like that one song off the new Sabrina Carpenter record sort of sounds like a Taylor Swift song that, you know, Jack did production on.
Or Taylor Swift sounding like Lana Del Rey on some of her newer records.
Right.
I will say, I think the more that Jack continues to work with these pop icons, the more we're able to hear it in each of the albums. And that is also what's kind of diminishing the quality as the listener.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, like, he's so in demand, it's not providing him or the pop listener base the opportunity for everyone to have like a bit of a breather, some space for things to kind of like reset and develop maybe a bit of a new sound or take kind of a new approach. So it just kind of feels like we're getting the same thing over and over and over because everybody's like rushing so quickly to do and put out the next thing. We're not arguing very much.
No, we're really getting along.
Yeah, we're really getting along.
All right, let's see if we can make each other mad.
Sleep Token being popular is a good thing. We are living in an era where most popular songs follow similar formulas, so it's just nice to see a band get popular doing something different, even if I'm not a fan of it. I don't know, do you just get off on seeing artists get popular doing things that are popular that people like?
You know what I get off on? I get off on seeing an artist doing something completely out of this world different, and maybe I don't like it, but seeing an artist take a risk and doing something that I've never heard before, that's something I can really get behind.
I agree with this person's sentiment, though maybe not for the reasons that they list here. Thinking of myself as a young music fan, and, you know, there was a lot of stuff and artists that I listened to back then that I still enjoy now, but I also listen to a lot of garbage, too. And a lot of those, like, worst and terrible artists that I regrettably listened to now when I was 13, 14, 15, many of them ended up being like gateway drugs to better stuff, you know, down the road. And I feel like for some people, you know, and not to totally diss Sleep Token here, you know, you're hardcore Sleep Token fans that just enjoy their Sleep Token and they know who they are as music fans and music listeners, and they're not like, you know, at this tender age where they're still kind of like exploring their taste. They're Sleep Token fans who are deep into their 30s, which is fine. That's totally cool. But, you know, for uninitiated metal listeners and rock listeners, Sleep Token could be that starter record, that starter pack to kind of get you into, you know, other stuff in the genre. Who knows?
The gateway. I need a gateway to get into metal because I haven't been able to yet. So maybe I'll check out Sleep Token.
Could be Sleep Token. Just because an album has no misses doesn't make it a 10 out of 10 album.
Okay, I'm gonna have to agree with this one too. I think that an album can be really solid from front to finish. Every song is a bop, but does that make it immensely perfect or something that's deserving of a 10 out of 10 title? No. It can be just okay, even having no misses.
Okay, I mean, to play devil's advocate a little here and just like, you know, pull on what you're saying. Okay, aside from like, you know, hypothetically 10 great tracks, 10 bops, what else does an album literally need? What else is a potential criteria point that a record could bring to the table that actually makes it a 10 out of 10? What does it have to have beyond good songs?
I think beyond good songs, it has to have the power and potential to influence more music.
So it's got to be influential.
I think so.
So like maybe like an obscure album. An album living in the shadows cannot be a 10 out of 10.
Not to me.
Really? Okay. Well, what else does it need besides, I guess, like a little bit of impact?
I always say that it needs to have the power to influence and needs to shape the generation that it's a part of.
All right. What else beyond that? Like beyond like an influence thing, maybe.
It needs to move your soul in a deep and profound way.
It needs to move your soul?
It needs to have the power to move you because, again, like each song could be really good, but a good song also has the power to completely unfeeze you.
Okay, but like what if it's like 10 moving songs or like maybe like 5 moving songs and 5 other songs that are just like pretty great?
It depends on the extent to which it moves you.
Okay, I would say personally, like beyond the songs being good, the thing that would be like a bit of a requirement for me is like, what are all these songs doing together as a whole? You know, it's like, do these tracks come together and actually say or mean something beyond like what they are separately as like different songs? And that doesn't mean that an album needs to be like a super huge, like in-depth concept or something like that. It could be something like kind of breezy and easy to listen to. Do all of these tracks like reinforce each other? You know, like does it actually sound good as an entire listening experience? A record can have like a lot of good songs on it, but as an album, it could still be like really daunting and annoying to listen to and maybe kind of draining because like maybe there's a lot of tracks on there that feel sort of redundant. You know, maybe the 15th song is like pretty good, but it doesn't bring anything to the table that a bunch of other songs didn't already, you know, earlier on the album. So I feel like for a record to be 10 out of 10, you really got to be looking at the macro picture of the album. Like, how does it all come together? How does it feel as like an album experience?
So cohesiveness is important to you. Yeah. Can an album with 10 songs, 10 different genres on each song, can that be a 10 out of 10 album?
I feel like super versatile, diverse, crazy, all over the place records like that, artists who specialize in that sort of thing, being like, you know, maybe Ween or Mr. Bungle, like that's definitely an angle. That's like a style and aesthetic. They might be giants too. You know, they have records that famously are like all over the place. That is like a concept or a direction in and of itself. It just sort of depends on how well you pull it off.
Okay. Fair enough.
The Weeknd is probably the most important artist of the 21st century. Abel has been able to create a legacy that will stand the test of time, from his beginnings with Trilogy to his hits from Beauty Behind the Madness and Starboy to the masterpieces of After Hours, Dawn FM, Hurry Up Tomorrow. It will be hard to ever top a catalog like his and the impact it has had.
You know what? I'm actually going to stand by this take. Do I think that they're being a little overestimating by saying the most of all time? Yes, absolutely. But do I think that people completely underestimate The Weeknd's influence in his discography? Yes, I think that he has completely influenced music in a way that rarely gets talked about or recognized. And I also feel like his newer albums are being completely overlooked and people mainly just focus on Trilogy when he's still releasing albums that I think are very influential and important.
Yeah, I mean, him breaking out with the first, you know, trilogy of mixtapes, like completely reset R&B for the 2010s into that like kind of moody, alternative sound that like, you know, we all became so familiar with over the next 10 years. And then when the 2020s started, I mean, while I wouldn't say he's been the most dominant pop artist on the scene, he did like completely make people turn toward that 80s revivalism thing with Blinding Lights and so on and so forth, which lasted like quite a while.
Still.
A lot of that like, you know, was very much on his shoulders coming out of nowhere. And he's been very like creative with each new evolution since that album as well. I think he's maybe spread himself a little thin in some respects because, you know, there were some tracks on his latest record, which I think it was great, but still a little padded out. And also kind of like seeing him try to force himself into acting has been a little rough.
The movie's rough. I actually think the album is my contender for album of the year.
Oh, wow. Okay. But no, I mean, I don't disagree. I think Abel has consistently been one of the most interesting and ambitious pop artists out there in recent years. And, you know, even though this seems like a little bit of a take from somebody who probably maybe really enjoyed The Idol, maybe a little bit, like, you know, they were like, yeah, it's kind of underrated as a show. I mean, you know, it's not the most inaccurate assessment.
They watched The Idol twice.
Let me catch you looking at her again. I'm not. Let me catch you looking at her again.
I'm sorry,
Let me
I'm not
fucking
sure.
catch you looking at her again. I'll fucking drag you down Rodeo while your fucking ass just fucking stomp your Curb stomping. I'm sorry.
A huge problem in music reviewer YouTube or social media in general is that, this is you, too many of them seem to not care to learn music history / basic genre knowledge. I'll never forget one reviewer who in a video couldn't name a single metal band and asked if Nine Inch Nails was metal. Unfortunately, I feel like this is becoming too much of a reality, and the reason that is I think a lot of like music critique and commentary right now on YouTube and Twitch and beyond is less criticism and more just reaction, which is like not the same thing. Unfortunately, though, to a lot of like music fans who consume this content, like it mostly looks the same, like they're interpreting it as the same when a well thought out and planned out critique and review of something is like a very different methodology from, and I've done both, you know, it's like I got the New Music Friday streams and enjoy doing those, but you know, obviously I'm doing formal reviews of records on a regular basis as well. Yeah, but again, to your average viewer, both of those types of content seem like the same or mostly the same. You're still getting a sense of like, does this person like this or do they not? But they're also, again, just very different things. And I feel like sadly, like a lot of the people are just kind of doing the reaction content because it is easy and a lot of people find it entertaining. There's nothing wrong with it inherently, but a lot of people are not going into this stuff having studied the artist they're reacting to. They're just like going to go listen to an album just being like, oh, well, this thing's kind of hype right now. Let's see if it's actually good, you know, without actually trying to give myself an understanding of what the artist is doing or what they're influenced by or where they're coming from with it.
I think there's an argument to be made to say that you can find your favorite reviewers, your favorite music critics that are knowledgeable, that are educated, and that's one brand of content, but I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with finding someone on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch that is just the average Joe reacting to music, and that's kind of their niche and that's kind of their brand, and saying, how does a non-music head listen to music, or how does a non-music head receive this album that I like? No,
I mean, as a consumer, as like, you know, a content watcher, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think content creators, whether you're reacting or whether you're reviewing, probably should be holding themselves to like a little bit of a higher standard.
If they're talking in depth about a music review, they probably should have some credentials to back it.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, again, I know that critique, that opinion isn't going to stop like the Kai Cenats of the world from just kind of being like, you know, oh, hey, I'm just going to listen to this randomly and just kind of see if I like it or not. Like, again, that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But I don't know, when you realize that you do kind of like have that responsibility and people are looking to you to kind of maybe guide them a little bit through something, I feel like maybe you should just maybe put a smidge more forethought into like what you're trying to do.
I studied music, so don't come at me.
I know you do. I'm not coming at you. I'm just trying to argue with you. Fans of music in general have ruined music more than they realize, whether it is through not buying physicals anymore, downloading music, or just dogpiling on their favorite artists the second they hear something they don't like. I don't mean like when Kanye would say something outrageous. I mean like when Chance the Rapper dropped the big day. I don't know. Do you think music fans are ruining music?
I don't necessarily think that this take explains why fans are ruining music. I think it's maybe just the way that music is moving and you're perceiving it as music being ruined. I don't think that fans not buying physical copies anymore says that music is being ruined. I think it means that music is moving in a different direction and fans are consuming music in a different way now. I also think we live in a space now where everyone is able to share their opinions immediately, and that's just the way that we're perceiving music now. We don't have, you know, the time, the weekend to listen to an album and then you talk about it with your friends on Monday. You have your phone right in front of you, and the moment you hear it, you can get on camera and say, I hate this album, this song, and this song was bad.
There's so much value put on the fast, aggressive, just sort of, you know, knee-jerk reaction opinion and critique now. I do agree with some of these things being issues, but I wouldn't necessarily put them purely on the backs of music fans. I mean, for example, not buying physical copies anymore, while, you know, we sort of know today doing such a thing, maybe sort of putting more money in the artist's pocket at the end of the day, I feel like that's more of an issue with the streaming industry per se. The fact of the matter is, like, these streaming services actually should be paying artists more to the point where they can make make a living off of their music. And, as somebody who enjoys physical media, I'm not advocating that we, completely abandon it or anything like that. But I feel like if artists so choose, they should be able to just like thrive off of their streams and not have to worry about, oh, should I print records as well in addition to this, because I'm not going to make shit off of people streaming my record. I actually think, if they're going to be putting out a physical, maybe that should just be like the cherry on top. You know what I mean? They actually should be making enough money off of their streams. And we see that these like platforms are making money hand over fist right now, and the labels are making more money than ever through streaming. They are. It does suck, but I mean, it has more to do with like how the streaming industry is working now versus like whether fans actually care about the music that they're consuming. On top of that, dogpiling on their favorite artists the second they hear something they don't like. I mean, that is terrible. That is awful. That is, nasty and unfair. And we have seen like how that has like kind of, shaken the confidence of an artist like Chance the Rapper in interviews he's done, like in the wake of this new LP that he has just put out, which has been obviously much more positively received than The Big Day. But with that being said, like, while obviously music fans take part in exactly that discourse, I think that also to a degree is a little skewed by the fact that so many social media platforms and algorithms just skew negative now, because negativity like creates engagement and creates controversy. And I think what a lot of music fans need to start realizing, and just internet users in general, just because you're seeing something pop up in your algorithm, just because you're seeing certain comments pop up at the top in a comment section on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, that's not necessarily a reflection of reality. That's not necessarily a reflection of everyone generally's actual opinions and beliefs across the board. Obviously, there's a very passionate and vocal minority who are angry and looking for engagement, or maybe even rage baiting on some level, and they're saying what they're saying to get the attention that they seek. But that's just like how social media works now, unfortunately, and that's not always sort of like the actual portrayal of everybody's feelings, everybody's thoughts, everybody's beliefs on a certain thing. That's just like a heightened intensity behind what is going to get a reaction out of people online. And, larger than that vocal minority, I think there's a lot of people, sadly, who are seeing that and are like, oh man, that's just reality. That's how everybody just actually thinks, because that's what I'm seeing people say. Remember, especially in an age of like bots and stuff like that, just because you're seeing text, that was allegedly posted by a person somewhere on the internet, that doesn't mean it's actually a reflection of like the real discourse that's going on. Whiplash is the best movie centered around music of all time. You have some feelings on this?
Of all time? Let's talk about Sound of Music, okay? Let's talk about Dreamgirls. Let's talk about La La Land. Whiplash is made for, I think, the man that feels completely burdened by talent. And I think it prides itself in that and being no more deep beyond that. I think it's a movie that's placating. I think it's a movie that pretends to be deep and abstract and artistic when it's really just fairly surface level.
It's jazz student porn.
Exactly.
It's jazz major porn.
And they get off to it.
They're just cranking it the whole time.
The whole movie. That's why they have the posters on all of their dorm walls, on all of their Brooklyn walls.
Is that a red flag? You walk into a guy's apartment and you see Whiplash poster on the wall?
If I talk about red flag albums, Whiplash is the epitome of the red flag movie. Don't be fooled, ladies.
Way too many people call genuinely influential and acclaimed artists overrated just because they don't like them. I absolutely despise Led Zeppelin and their discography, but I would never deny their musical influence on hard rock, metal, so on and so forth. It's far too substantial for me to ever call them overrated. I think people will say that, and people will also say, like, totally irrelevant when they don't like something. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that, like, it's something beyond music. I feel like, from the upper echelon of our politics right now to, just discourse in general, there's not enough people sort of seeing repercussions for just, frankly, just straight up lying. And I feel like, in fact, in a lot of cases, lying just sort of like gets you fans, or gets people sort of supporting you, or gets people behind you, because you're just kind of like validating the worst and most outlandish and hyperbolic elements of their opinions by just like saying something completely hurtful and ridiculous and false, just because like they feel that it should be true. It's like, I don't like this thing, and I want to feel like, and I want to believe like, yeah, Taylor Swift is completely irrelevant. Taylor Swift's never made a single hit. Taylor Swift's never made a single good song. Like, those are all fucking lies. However, you know that if I posted that, there'd be like a bunch of people in the replies that are like, yeah, I agree. When it's like, it's objectively true she has made hits.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's objectively true that she's made some good songs.
Yeah, I think we're not using objection enough when we're talking about music. You can recognize that something might not be good to you or might not be your favorite, but you need to be able to objectively recognize its worth. I am not a huge Playboi Carti fan, but I think I would be stupid to completely discount his influence on music for the past 5 years as irrelevant. I can say, this isn't for me and I don't like this, or I don't think this is good, but the influence is there.
Right. You know, and the thing is, like, the impact, I feel like, is something that when people hate something, they just, like, want to tune it out or act like, you know, especially in an age where like everybody is so kind of locked into their own algorithms and their own like echo chambers, like just because a certain thing doesn't pop up in their world of certain pieces of content or whatever they find interesting, they just sort of believe that, oh, well, it just must not matter, or it just like must not exist because, I don't know, it's not popping up in my feed. But just because it's not in your feed doesn't mean doesn't exist and that it's not important to someone.
For example, the Doja Cat record is supposedly not doing numbers right now, but it's been doing numbers in my headphones, it's been doing numbers on my phone, so to me it's big. So just because someone's really not seeing that on their end doesn't mean that it's not important or significant to someone else.
Yeah, I've been enjoying that album a lot too, and you know, just because I'm liking it, it wouldn't make sense for me to go online and just start saying like, the Doja Cat record is the most important pop album of the last 5 years, and you know, it's bigger and more important and more influential than any other pop album out there, and every pop album that is not the Doja Cat album is irrelevant that has dropped in the past year. That would be unhinged.
I'd call you crazy.
That wouldn't make sense. And yet, there are people out there who ride for their favorites like that. There really fucking are. And they're just way too loud and way too annoying, and they get way too much traction for people who are just frankly not dealing in reality. You can have preferences, but still live in reality.
Your reality is not truth, and they're out there, and they need to be silenced. That's who I really want to argue with.
I am angry. Woo! There he goes. Really mad? Whee! I am angry.
Even though we have agreed quite a bit here, you know, we've still argued a little bit, maybe, you know, just a little touch, but still, thank you for watching. This has been your hot takes and all that. Shout out to ePotty once again for taking part and being a great sport. We will link to her stuff down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano.
ePotty forever.
Do you want to defend Maroon 5?
I don't think I do.